this one is a little different. We're going to do a multi-cavity mold. I'm going to show how I do a multi-cavity mold. The idea I have, the lure I want to do, is a chub minnow, soft plastic twitch bait, jerk bait, whatever you want to call it. And the plan is to build a multi-cavity mold that has like 6 cavities in it, so I can inject 6 of them at a time. So I'm glad you joined me. This should be fun. It's time to lure up. So I'm thinking something very blunt-headed, round but blunt. And the reason that is I want that action that you get twitching a bait. I want that action. Something along the lines of that. Because when that water hits, it's pushing the water apart and it collapses back on the back side of it. I want it to cause the tail to move when you're twitching it and working it.
Okay, I have got to get me a thinner blade. This thick blade, it's actually a metal blade. It's for cutting metal. But man, I need a thin one for wood.
Okay, battery died on me when I'm sanding, but I got it pretty close to the shape I want to start carving at. So we'll just go ahead and start carving him.
The idea here is to create a shape that's actually wider than it is tall. And the reason I want to do that is because if you take a bait, let's just say if I made this taller than it was wide, like a thin shad or a thin shiner, when you start pulling it fast through the water, immediately it's going to go on its side. So I'm thinking to myself, well, why not make it fatter than it is tall so that it has a tendency to want to stay upright? So that's the goal. That's the reason that I'm making it into that shape, that it's so fat that it's actually wider than it is tall. And the fish are generally in these rivers that I'm fishing are going to see the profile. They're not really going to see from underneath anyway, but it looks cool either way, I think.
Okay, got the shape pretty much the way we want it. I think I'll just go ahead and put some eye sockets in it. And I don't know that I'll do much more. I thought about putting fins and all that on it, but I want it to be smooth and nothing, the only steering I want it to have is basically me putting a nose hook on there, just a little like drop shot hook going through the nose. In fact, I've thought about building a little insert that sticks out just past the nose that the hook will go through, but the hook won't come off because of the barb. So it would be out of some kind of thin plastic that would run back into the meat of this rubber here, and I could even have a little split shot on the bottom of it, so that would help keep it stabilized, give it some more weight for casting. But that's going to be plenty of weight, that rubber, for casting. So it's just a matter of can I get it to sit right in the water when it's jerking. It's not twisting and rolling over. I think this shape will work. Alright, put our details in. Let's find the center. Run right down through here. Okay, got my lines all around it, so I know where the center is on the sides and where the center is on the top and bottom, roughly. I may not be 100% there, but pretty close. And I'm going to put the mouth just underneath, about right there, and as it comes around it's going to turn down. So I'm off center there about 1/8 inch before it turns down. Turn down on the same angle, so something like that would be the mouth. And then I come back here in the eye. It's going to be pretty close to the nose. That's how fish are, most of them. And about 1/3, maybe just under half, really. About 3/8 of the eye. Let's see. Below that line. So somewhere like that right there.
So I'll come over to this side, and I need to be the same way where the majority of the eye is on top, and I need to be back the same distance. So, you know, I can come in here and get a stop and say, okay, right there's the beginning of the eye. So the eye start right there, and just about a third of it, maybe if that, is on the bottom, and the rest is on the top. Then if I wanted some gills in there, I'm probably looking at it something like that. So I'm coming on an angle from here up to a curve, and then a radius from there around. And that radius, you know, the gill kind of ties into the shape of that mouth eventually. So if I carry this up top with a line, so I look down on it, I'm down about that far where the radius starts, maybe just a hair further. And it's going to curl around. Alright, let's do a little detailing. Time to do a little detailing. Okay, I'm not going to cut these details very deep in this one. I'm not trying to get a lot of depth. I want to keep this thing, you know, pretty low profile. I want to keep it smooth and kind of, I guess, teardrop shape maybe would be the best way to describe it. So I don't want a lot of detail. I don't want fins hanging off of it. I don't want gills sticking out. I don't want big cut lines in it. Probably not even going to put a scale pattern on it. So pop some eyes in there. Alright, see if that'll focus in on that. Right there's how she's looking. The fatling. I think it's not a fingerling, it's a fatling. I think that pretty much sums it up. It's just a little fatling. Alright, on to the mold. I got a couple half-inch pieces of plywood here. So I'm thinking we'll cut them, of course, the same size. And then we'll just give ourselves a little bit of clearance around here. Alright, go cut them out. I just use regular drywall screws. Okay, here I'm basically just taking some modeling clay, shoving it down in there and scraping it off flush, because this is how I'll seat the lure, and so I get a good parting line when I pour my rubber on the other half. Here I'm just gouging out a little bit of clay just to make room for the lure. A little Vaseline on there makes everything smooth and slippery. You just got to make sure that your corners, you know, right where the lure meets the clay, make sure it's not got big wads of silicone, Vaseline in there. Yeah, I think that's good. Let's go ahead and lock him down. Pouring the rubber to the fatling, getting her saturated. Okay, time to open it up and pour the other side. Now, I always recommend pushing down on this side so you don't pull your part out of your rubber. There. Nice clean exit. Like it. like it a lot. Okay, we want to make sure, as I said before, we don't end up with any bulk Vaseline in the corners, or anywhere for that matter. You know, you don't want it in your gill plates like there is right there, or your eye socket. And a good way to do that is just simply taking a brush, working it. Makeup brushes, if you can steal them from your wife, or for you young guys out there that aren't married and you're living at home, steal it from your mom. That's the way to go. They're good brushes. Ultra Release. This stuff's really good. I get mine from US Composites. A couple light coats. The higher you pour your rubber, the more it can stretch out thin and release some of the air bubbles. I don't get real serious about getting rid of air bubbles. I've got a vacuum pump I could use. If I'm going to make a production mold, then I will do that. Like for my glide baits or wake baits or something like that. You see how my mold frame is not really lined up? At this point, that's not a problem. While it's screwed together, I'm going to go run it through the saw and clean that up so that when I'm pouring, I know it's lined up. You know, when I shut it, looks good on that side. Looks good on that side. All right, we got ourselves a winner. Let's pour one. Get moved up.
Yeah, we're ready. Okay, let's see what we end up with.
Very nice. Feel a little soft. Alright, one down, and well, we actually have two now, so we're going to end up with 6, so 4 more to go.
I think it's about time to throw a little tackle magic at this because I don't want to bore you with making 6 of the same thing over and over, so I think we'll just put the old, see if I still got my old wand. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Pickatus, bigotus, boom. Make this lure into 6 of them.
Got it. Alright, so now we got 6 of them. We need to make us a mold. Okay, what I did here was I cut me a piece of wood here, a couple pieces of MDF, 3/4 inch plywood, big enough to carry a 6 cavity mold. And what my plan is that I'm going to cut these cavities out with a jigsaw, and I made me a template that gives me a little bit of clearance all the way around on the bait. And then I divided it into 6 segments where I still have some strength around the outside, and trace those on there. So what I'll do next is basically, you know, drill a couple holes here at each end and take the jigsaw and cut these cavities out. Okay, I'm going to need, this thing's going to shut, so it'll probably have a hinge on it, like, it can open and close. I'll inject from the middle of the top. So what I'm going to need is I'm going to need a hole for the 3/4 inch copper tubing I'm going to use to fill it with. And then it's going to need to run right down in front of these baits, right off the nose. It's going to need a channel to fill up with resin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it through the table saw and make a channel there. I just happen to put these screws right where that channel's at, but I think the channel will stop and start on this side of the screw, so it shouldn't be a problem. Cut the channel all the way through using the table saw, and then I'll go ahead and
fill it back in with Bondo. 7/8 of an inch. So if I was a 1/2 inch deep on each side, that'd leave me an inch. So we're going to be 7/16 on each side. Okay, so let's find center. This is almost a foot long, so it's going to be just under 6 inches. So around 6 3/8. I'm sorry, 5 3/8. Okay, let's find center here. If it was 11 inches, it'd be 5 1/2. We've got another 5/8, so that's going to be 5/16 on to 5 1/2. So let's go 5 1/2. So we're looking at 13/16. 5 9/16. That ain't right. 5 1/2 plus 5/16. There. So that'd be 5 13/16. Let's double check it back the other way. That is correct. And I want that blade to be deep enough for half of this copper tubing. And the copper tubing is 7/8 of an inch. 7/16 on each side. I think that's it right there. And I want to go in until I hit this channel. So I don't want to go much further than that. So I want to stop every time right there. So what I can do is put me on a block that I hit when I go forward. I can't go no further than that. The fatling has got me fired up. The fatling is going to put some fish in the creel. Start from this side and work my way across. That's it. Okay, so if you're going to cut this stuff, this copper, and make a mold yourself, I recommend you use a bandsaw or a hacksaw or something to cut it off with. If you use just a pair of cutters, oh yeah, it's simple, nice to cut, but it also puckers. It'll pucker the end in as it cuts it, so you really don't want that. I mean, if you're soldering pipe, sure, you want that to go inside of a fitting, you want it a little puckered, but it's not really conducive for what we're doing, so I always take and just cut it with a bandsaw. Got a mess in here. My mom used to say, "You messing in a gammon." What is that? What is gammon? I know what messing is, but she'd say, "You're messing in a gammon." I don't know about that. I don't know if I've ever been a gommer. See if we can't get some clay into each one of these slots. And yellow, hang on a second. I got you on speakerphone here on YouTube.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Hello, America.
Hello, America.
And I'm going to head home, and I was wondering if you'd like me to pick some dinner up.
Ooh, that sounds good. All right. How about
Sky's the limit.
sky's the limit? We ain't done Mexican in a while.
Okay.
You want to do
I
Mexican?
can order that. All right.
Sounds like a winner. Winner, winner.
Winner.
Chimichanga
Chicken
dinner.
Chicken chimichanga dinner.
That's right.
All right.
All right. Love you.
See you later, sweetie face.
All right. See you, sweetie face.
All right.
Love
Bye.
you.
Love you.
Love you. Bye. Looks like I'm gonna be eating chicken. I don't know what it is about the Mexican. I get those tortilla chips and that white cheese sauce. If you ain't tried that, you gotta try that. That's good. Forget that salsa crap. Go straight for the white cheese sauce. And we're going to put that parting line right where we had it on that other mold, so they'll be going in just like that right there. But we're coming along nicely. Just don't want to take out too much, but then again, I gotta have enough where it'll go down in there without having a devil of a time. Them minutes it was chewing on my leg hairs. These little fat rascals. They weren't probably as plump as the fatling is here, but you know, it's just like putting a bigger eye on your lure. There's something about triggering fish by stepping out of the norm just a little bit, and I think this will do that. It'll have all the goodies that say eat me, but it'll also have some stuff that says, hey, it's easy to eat me. I'm nutritious, I'm fat, I'm full of, I'm bursting with goodness. Come get me. You know, that's where we hope we're at with this.
Okay, I recommend if you're going to do one of these production molds, I recommend that you just put a little bit of rubber in each cavity and take a brush and work it around and let it sit. It's going to reduce the likelihood of you getting a bubble in there, unless of course you've got the equipment. You know, if you have a vacuum chamber and you can put your rubber in there and evacuate all the air bubbles, fantastic. You know, that's definitely the way to go. But if you're like me and you don't really want to mess with that, or you don't have the equipment, then this is the way to do it. And then also, when it's time to take the parts out, I recommend trying to remove the clay without disturbing the part from the rubber, because you could lose your seat. Make sure all the clay's off of these. Make sure that the corners are good and clean. Sometimes they'll look clean. Like here, there's actually rubber. You got to make sure that rubber's out of there. Alright, okay, I got this all cleaned up good, and I got some the old Ultra Release XP. I get this from US Composites. I got it sprayed on there good. I even took the paintbrush first, went around with some Vaseline really thin, super thin, and then hit it with the wax, making sure there's no build up in the edges, or the parting line. And the reason I put that tape on there is just a spacer, so that when I close the mold back up to shoot a lure in there, I'll pull that tape out. Now when it shuts, the wood will actually have the thickness of the tape to come closer, and that'll compress the rubber. So what it basically does is allow the mold to touch at the rubber before it touches the wood, so that your seam is tighter than any other place, your parting line. Something else I should probably stress too, that you know, if you are going to use a brush, especially on this second coat, well, even on the first coat, you don't want to push very hard, because you know, on the first half you could distort the clay and mess up your parting line, but on the second one you could actually work your release agent free and end up causing your rubber to bond to the already dry rubber, and it will do that. If you don't use that release agent, or you wipe it off, well, it's going to tear something. It's not going to come apart. So just another little tip about pouring these rubber molds. Oh, I like that sound. Come on now. Oops. Looks good. Looking good. Yes. We're going to have to do our thing in here. We're going to clear coat all that with UV resin and put a little Bondo at each end, so that you know, we don't need any plastic to go past the ends, the noses of each lure. And then, so when that thing shoots and it sets up, it'll pull right out. Man, I'm excited. The fatling is almost here. Okay, I don't focus very good, but I'm mixing up some Bondo here so that we can form fit the other side of the tubing so plastisol doesn't shoot back up into the wood.
Yes. Yes. Looks like we're real close. We're about there.
Okay, I'm basically taking a Dremel tool and just cutting the gates in so I can fill the lures.
Okay, here we go. Give him a little something to hold him upright.
Alright, the old green pumpkin mixed with a little bit of bone. Okay. You kind of feel it just die out, that pressure. You don't want to overkill it, you just flash everything. That key is getting that right to that right point. Oh yeah, nice batch of fatlings. Now we're fitting out, now we're spitting out fatlings by the half dozen. Okay. Look at them in there. Oh yeah. That dead on plastics is dead on, baby. Yeah.
Okay, so I end up using some copper mesh there to put a scale pattern on, and I paint the backs and put a little collar at the tip of the tail. Kind of dress them up a little bit in 3 different patterns, and end up clear coating them. And also, that paint also has a clear coat, so they come out really nice. It's got me all fired up to toss the fatling. It's gonna be fun.
That makes a nice looking eye. All right, got a variety of colors there all painted up, ready to test. But as you would know it, it rained like the dickens last night, and so the river's all muddy, and so's the creek. So really don't have any place to test it until that calms down. But meanwhile, I'll go try to test this in the bathtub and see if you can tell anything, but I don't think that's probably going to work. So all I've done is taken a little drop shot hook and nose hooked him. Okay, so I've already tried it in here. Not really big enough to show any kind of action. It just doesn't do it justice to test a jerkbait in a bathtub. You can get in the water. So, all right, well, as soon as it clears up, we'll give him a much more valid test. We'll take him down to the creek or the river. We'll see what the old smallies think. Till next time, lure up, baby.